Well, Australians are living through the worst housing crisis, and now it could be about to get worse.
The likes we've never seen before in this, the lucky country.
Housing affordability is as bad as it's ever been.
Too many people, not enough homes.
Yes, you heard them. Australia's housing crisis is severe. Adverse possession is a complex legal area in Australia where a squatter might not be breaking the law if they enter a property that looks abandoned and the doors are unlocked. However, if the door is locked, the squatter could be charged for breaking and entering. If the owner asks the squatter to leave and they refuse, they are trespassing. Adverse possession gives a person the right to claim ownership of a property after 12 years of continuous occupation without force, secrecy or permission, except in Victoria, where it's 15 years. These laws encourage the efficient use of land, giving owners an obligation to maintain their property, but do not apply in the ACT and Northern Territory. So is squatting a viable alternative to joining the snaking queues at rental inspections? Rental advocate and law graduate Jordan Vandenberg, known as Purple Pingers online, thinks so. He highlights poor rental conditions and is now helping people find vacant homes to squat in.
Just a public service announcement for any rich people who live in a rich suburb and land banking an empty house. Just remember to change the locks.
People are reaching out to me and I'm sending them actual kind of viable places to squat and that are a bit safer.
If you live in a suburb where a rich person has an empty home, well, we have probably the fastest rate of homelessness increasing in Australia. Let me know about it.
Send me the vacant homes and I'll send them to people who need vacant homes.
Here's a free house if you want it.
Everyone's seen a vacant house. They're very easy to find. Is the mailbox overflowing? Is the lawn overgrown? Does the place look like it's about to fall down? Has there been any activity for years? There's a lot of tells for a vacant house. We shouldn't have, homes without people. Well, we have people without homes. It's pretty simple.
All this could be yours for the low price of just adversely possessing it for 15 years, which is less than it would take to pay off a 30-year mortgage on this $1.74 million property.
The same law that gives you the right to own a property also gives you an obligation to productively use the property. If you can stay there for 12 years or 15 years, and people have in the past, and get the place, then that's how the law works. Go for it. For some people, this will be a viable solution for them, particularly if they are sleeping rough and, this is the alternative. But for some people, no, it's not gonna. It's dangerous. It's scary. It's like there's a lot of barriers to this. I certainly don't think squatting is a solution to the housing crisis, but in the absence of actual solutions, this is kind of all we have at the moment. Any solution that the government proposes is something that will still increase the price of housing. You're kicking the can further and further down the road and you're going to make the problem worse. As renters, we're already paying for the pleasure of living in dangerous homes that are falling apart. I've covered many houses where the ceilings have collapsed on the tenants inside, unleashing asbestos and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's dangerous, but also so is renting. At the moment, people need short to immediate term relief. This is one way to do it. It's not the best way to do it by any stretch of the imagination, but for a lot of people it is the only way.
While exact figures are unknown, successful adverse possession claims are rare due to legal complexities. One notable case involved property developer Bill Gertos, who took possession of an empty 3-bedroom house in Sydney's inner west in 1998. After changing the locks, renovating, and maintaining the property for 20 years, including putting renters in who essentially squatted the property for him, he legally claimed ownership in 2018 and sold it for $1.4 million in 2020. The Australian Bureau of Statistics estimates up to 140,000 houses are empty in the country. During a housing shortage, while low rental vacancies push rents through the roof, millions of Australians bear the cost of these empty homes. Initiatives like Victoria's vacant land tax aim to address the problem by discouraging land banking. However, Victoria is the only state with a vacant residential land tax. It applies to homes left empty for 6 months of the calendar year, and owners are charged 1% of the property value annually. The motive for squatting in Australia has changed over the decades. It began in the early 19th century when farmers occupied crown grazing land for their livestock. The term squatter was associated with wealth and power back then, as many farmers amassed significant land holdings. During the Great Depression in the 1930s, urban squatting emerged as homeless and unemployed people occupied vacant buildings in Australia's cities. In the 1970s and 80s, squatting was almost a rite of passage for artists and activists opposing urban redevelopment. Low-income and working-class citizens lived in Sydney's inner suburbs, which the government and developers wanted demolished. Squatters played a pivotal role in saving hundreds of homes, such as in Glebe, where a planned motorway through the suburb threatened dozens of dwellings. Nowadays, squatting is largely an unfavourable response to housing shortages or as a social political protest. Occasionally, councils and owners allow squatters to stay until demolition, as was the case in 2007 when Leichhardt Council agreed to let 4 squatters stay in one of Sydney's longest-running squats.
We've got to pay water rates, electricity. We don't pay rent.
The abandoned building with water views in Balmain was known as Iceland until it was demolished. Squatting is fraught with significant legal, social and personal challenges. It can be dangerous and unstable, posing health risks due to a lack of amenities and poor housing conditions. While squatting might address immediate housing needs and highlight systemic issues, it remains a risky and controversial activity with many legal hurdles.